Hello, Chimney World. I'm Cody. I'm the sales manager for Master Services. Third week in a row, I'm doing chat with Chad. He has just been too busy. Had a busy week for week number one. Daughter getting married last week, and this week he's at homecoming with all of you other chimney geeks out there at the CSIA homecoming. So we really want to get into sales meetings, morning sales meetings, you know, how to identify the customer, what exactly it is that we're looking for in salespeople, how do we guide them, how do we hire them, how all of this information. Um, so we are going to be bringing on a few of my sales guys for a chat with Chad tonight. And I've got the link in there. I'm not going to be watching the comments, but for anybody that wants to join, all they need to do is just click the link and they can hop in and ask a question. You want to ask a question and hop out? That's cool. You want to stick around and ask a few more questions or just kind of be here and be on the stream? That's pretty good too. We generally go for about an hour. Anybody that wants to hop off and go to bed, I fully understand that. If we end up staying a little over an hour, we'll stay a little over an hour. I want to make sure that everybody's questions get answered. So we're going to kind of pick up on what we did last week when we were talking about sales and whatnot. So, sales meetings, the content that we have that goes into them, making sure that it's the correct content for the correct context. We don't need to be drowning our sales guys in numbers. What are we doing in the week? What are we this? What are we that? Some people will think that that might help your company, which in your own personal case, that might be the case. But just keeping them apprised of the day-to-day business situation. Once a week we might have a conversation about, what's the company doing? Where are we at? But I want them to focus on the daily personal tasks, the jobs that they've got. We had a pretty big meeting this morning. We were there for a couple of hours. We took them through just making sure everybody knew how to do the correct procedures of a sweep. I took them through the ABCs of sales, which we'll probably cover again here in a little bit. And then we just answered some other general questions, had a general roundtable. So I've got a couple of my guys here that I'd like to bring on. And with that, we're going to get them brought on here. I'm going to add Dawn and Tim. All right. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good.
Doing pretty good. All right. So
Yes, sir.
we're live on Facebook and YouTube. So this is going out to all of the stars and everybody else.
Didn't know
Little
this.
green men will start hearing this in a couple 100,000 years. So let's just kind of pick up on where we left off earlier today. I would like to. Let's see if I can do this here. Take this down, and we'll get over to the whiteboard here. So earlier today we were talking about the ABCs of sales, and the last time that I covered this, I didn't really have a whiteboard. I was just kind of drawing it in the air, and I don't think I really spent enough time on it. But I think I did a good representation of it earlier today in the meeting, and I just want to kind of go over that again. When we talk about the ABCs of sales and we talk about classifying customers, we are not classifying the customer by the house they have. We're not classifying it by how much money they have in their bank account. We're not driving it by the clothes that they wear, those kinds of things. And I think that got a little convoluted last time that I talked about this on this channel. What we're classifying the customer as is how much they value their chimney. So when we talk about the ABCs of sales, We've got the entire market. This is everybody in your area that has a chimney. This is not everybody that calls you. This is everybody with a chimney and fireplace that's in your service area. This is 100% of the market. So we've got the Class A, the Class B, and the Class C, right? So each of them represents 33% of the market. Now, the Class A is all about advantage. The Class C is the cost concerned customer. And the Class B, that we say can go either way, is balanced between both. So, let's scoot that up just a little bit. So, when we talk about this, we're talking about the value that the customer is going to put on certain items. We're talking about selling on our value as a chimney company. In the discovery process, it's part of, if you listen to what Alan Rush says, it's not just showing up and saying, okay, I'm here to do an inspection, let's do an inspection. The discovery process is there for you to ask questions to get out of the customer why exactly you're at the house. So if you're at the house, why? Okay, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I see here that I'm supposed to be doing a level 2 inspection today, but if you can't tell me in your own words why I'm out here. That's the way Chad likes to do it. My favorite way to ask the customer is, okay, well, I see him out here. It says camera inspection on the work order. Is this more of a general health kind of a checkup, or was there something in particular that you were worried about? So when I go out to a house, that's the way I ask the question. Same question being asked two completely different ways. When I get into that, the customer is automatically going to be in the mindset to open up and give me information. If they start talking to me about, oh, I hear birds, blah, 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 I want the birds to go away, I hate birds, they're not talking to me about a time they used the chimney. They're not saying, oh, last Christmas we had the grandkids over here and we were all sitting around and drinking hot cocoa and we were enjoying it, and all of a sudden the smoke started coming back in the room and now there's this awful lingering smell. That's not what they're doing. They're citing that there's birds in the chimney. I can instantly pick up on it and say, okay, birds in the chimney, that's what they're concerned about. Let's resolve that problem. I also need to be kind of prodding and asking, well, how often do you use the chimney? When do you most commonly use the chimney? So how often and when? I'm trying to dig into those. If the customer says, oh, I hate fire, I'm afraid of gas, I don't like this, I don't like that, it's so dirty, it has an awful smell, I hate the way wood smells, you need to be digging in and you need to be getting into why they do or do not use the fireplace. If they do use it, when? If they don't use it, why? That's going to help us put a value on the customer. So with a cost-concerned customer, that's going to be a very low value on the fireplace. And I think I am offline is what it says here. Let me check. Got one that says live and one
Cody,
that
you're
says
still talking.
offline. Am I
Still
still
hearing.
talking?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
I can still see you.
Well, we'll keep going because it's still recording to the DVR and it'll post later anyways. So, all right. So with that, we're going to go cost-conscious customer first. These are your cost-based customers. Cost-based customers mean that this customer is only concerned about what it's going to cost to fix the chimney. They're not going to look at any upgrades. If you tell them it's going to cost $5,000-$6,000 to fix a chimney, they're going to want the 10 or 12 bids. They're only going to choose the lowest bid. They want to get out of it for the least amount of money possible. So this one here, Now, you have to remember I come from an engineering background, so I like to do things based on math. So the cost has to be less than their value. If they have a value of 2, then the most your cost can be is a 1.99, right? So it's always going to be an irregular number. Their cost has to be less than their value. It can't even equal their value. If they have next to no value in the chimney at all, if they don't value it, if they don't use it, this customer is always going to be something that you're going to price yourselves out of. So, we're going to take a third of the total market, a third of the total chimneys in your area, and we're just going to kill them. Because what happens is this customer, the value-based customer says that cost is equivalent to I, which is an imaginary number. Those of you that don't know what an imaginary number is, it's like the square root of a -2. It doesn't exist. The cost is inconsequential to them getting their value back out of it. If you are selling on the value of your work, if you're selling on the value of the materials that you use, if you're selling on the value of getting them back to drinking the hot cocoa, they will pay more for something. Now, with that said, the comment that I made last time is that these customers might have a nicer house, they might have nicer clothes, they might have a nicer car. That's because those are the areas that they put value on. Somebody had made a comment that they said, somebody lived in a multi-million-dollar house but drove a Subaru that was 15 years old. Granted, it's a 15-year-old car, it's still a Subaru. They bought it new at one point because they knew that that would be something they could invest in and they could drive the car for 15 years. So he answered his own question by posting that comment. This is your value-based customer. This customer right here is the one that you're going to come into and you're going to tell them, my warranty's X, we're going to do Y, it's going to bring it all together for Z. That's your value. This customer is where we need to be focused on, because this customer is what's going to allow us to have that higher price. This customer is the one that, even though they might live in a one-room shack with nothing but a wood stove to keep them warm in the winter, that wood stove now has a higher value on it than a brand new set of Nikes. So the A customer, the A-class customer, all about the advantage. What advantage do they get from doing this work? If I am only concerned with capturing this customer, I'm going to price myself out of this customer. If I'm only showing the price for the cost concern customer and I'm cheap all day long, the customer that's used to spending more to get the higher value is now going to be priced out of my market, because they're going to look at me as the cheap guy. They're not used to going with the cheap guy. They're not comfortable going with the cheap guy. So you have to remember that although we're going to get upset that we're selling jobs that are going to get this cheap guy out, and you're upset that you're going to be losing jobs to somebody that is bidding lower than you, you have to be fully prepared to look yourself in the mirror and realize that at the same time, you're losing jobs to guys that are bidding higher than you as well. Now, if I'm losing jobs that are underbid all day long, where somebody's coming along and they're bidding $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 below me, that's fine. Let them eat that cost. Let them make a 2% profit. I don't care. If I'm losing bids to these guys right here, and that bid is more than what I wrote up, there is no quicker way to ruin your business. No quicker way to ruin your business. So A-class customer is where we need to focus our attention on. You need to be able to identify this. The A-class customer is the group that you're going to walk in, you're going to start talking, the eyes get big, they're excited, you get them excited, they get you excited. Chimneys, yes. Christmas tree, yes. Oh my gosh, February was so crazy. we lost power, and now we're just so afraid that we're going to freeze to death in our bed that we want you to come back out here and we want you to fix this thing so that we never have to experience that again. That's this customer. We've built value into this customer, right? Balance between both. The cost has to be equal to or less than the value. Now, there's an interesting conundrum. Equal to or less than the value, right? So, as long as we're building the value for what they're going to get out of it, we're building on what we're going to get out of the customer. So, we know that roughly 1/3 of this customer should fall directly in line with the A-class customer, right? With that said, that B-class customer only needs a little bit more information to keep that trend going. So now, as our sales process gets better, and we train more, and we work more, and we role play more, we're going to capture more of that market. So now we're at roughly 50% of the market right here, right? And everybody says that not 100% of the market is your market. It's somewhere between 60 and 65%. So how do we get to that? We get better at our sales process. We get better at being able to show the customer why we're the better value. We get better at being able to explain to the customer why spending a little bit more money with us is where they need to be. And then we get better at converting some of those lower B-end customers into the higher B-end customers. And when it's all said and done with, there's your line. There's your 60%. And now you've narrowed your B-class customer to this. We're going to have a 60% here. We're going to have 30% here. That leaves 10% of the market as a toss-up. So the whole deal is getting in, identifying the customer, quantifying their value that they're going to place on it, and then taking that to the next level. Being able to see and say, okay, I understand this is what's going on. You know, let's get that fixed. This is what it's going to take to get that fixed. Let's get back over here to the guys. Don, Tim. Let's see here. Oh, Kyle German says that he would be on with me, but he's studying for his NFI test. You go, Kyle. So, Don, Tim, what questions do you guys have? And Don, you have no light on you right now at all.
Yeah, I guess it's just my location. Let's see.
Yeah.
That better?
So
No.
what questions
There.
do you guys have?
I don't know
what
if
would
you want a
like
lot of
to
light.
Anything at all?
Well,
Cody, more of a
Cody, we were
comment.
talking
It's
about
just
the first one
really
today.
helped me segment out customers.
Hang on one second, Don. I think Tim was asking a question, then you guys started talking over each other. What was that, Tim?
More of a comment of how useful this was, just reflecting back on the past couple of days to say, okay, during the discovery, they did value their fireplace, and having now being armed with that information, I can move forward with it as opposed to just moving through the sales process. It's just another label we can put on there to say, oh, wow, they do value it, or hey, this is going to take more information for them. I have to step my game up and really inform them about it. So I think it's just a good model to use out there in the field to more or less overlay with our sales process.
Yeah, and that's it all starts with a good discovery. We need to be doing the meet and greet. We need to be stepping in. Hey, my name's Cody. I'm with Master Services. We're here to take a look at the old chimney. You walk them in. We want to identify a few things about the house. You know, they should always be learning something about us, personalizing it. Um, Everybody says that you sell yourself first. If you're not authentic, it's not going to happen. To be authentic, you need to be confident. Um, of all people, for me to quote Jordan Belfort, the guy from The Wolf of Wall Street, he does a training course where he talks about the process of a sale is the transference of confidence. So if you're not confident in yourself, if you're not confident in your knowledge, and if you're not confident in your products and services or your processes, any one of those things is going to lead to a failure in confidence. If you have a failure in confidence, that confidence is not going to be transferred properly. If you're not transferring confidence properly, you're not going to make the sale. So being confident in it, showing the customer, ma'am, I assure you I know what I'm talking about. Sir, this is why we need to reline this. Getting into all of those little things, being able to show them, going back to Alan Rush's sales process, the big three, like he likes to say. What is it? How did it get this way? And what happens if we don't fix it? We like to talk about, moisture is the number one leading cause of chimney damage. It's going to cause over 90% of all the damage to your chimney from the bottom to the top, inside and out. So if, we at Master Services, we do a waterproofing bundle. I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't do those. But in our bundle, it's just a More Crown overlay, crown coat, flash seal, spray the chimney with a chimney saver waterproofing, and we hit it with a full coverage chimney cap. We bundle it together. We give a slight little knockoff of a discount when it's all bundled together. It's not much. I think total it's like $150, $200. But we sell on the waterproofing bundle. We sell on the knowledge of why the waterproofing bundle. Our warranties are directly tied to us doing the waterproofing bundle. And if people say, okay, let's get it fixed so I can use it again, but I want to keep my cap up there and I don't want the bundle, then you're selling on, well, if we don't do the bundle, this can happen again. You're dropping 8, 9, 10, 15 grand. So why wouldn't you want to protect that? Just think of it as an insurance payment you pay once up front, right? And then you just have us inspect it every year. And then that the terms on that warranty will carry on forever. But definitely getting into it, explaining why they need the things they need, explaining why it's important for that to happen. At the same time, you're building value in yourself, you're building value in the company, and you're building value in the chimney. If somebody says, oh, I only use it 4 or 5 times a year, there's value there. Maybe not as much as the person that says, oh, man, as soon as it hits 70 degrees, we're going to hit those gas logs. Maybe not as much value as that person. But if they're using it 4 or 5 times a year, that might be as cold as their house gets. And those are the 4 or 5 times a year they need it. And then, you can drop in little hints like, hey, did you guys lose any power during the freeze or anything? Maybe trip them up, get them thinking about when that frost came through, that kind of thing. But definitely building the value. That's going back to those customers that we've had previously, opening those jobs up, going back into them, trying to build off of those original estimates, trying to build off that original value. Just having a conversation with them. You don't even have to call them and try and sell them anything. Hey, man, this is Tim with Master Services. I was just calling back to see how you were doing. Yeah, no. I know that we were talking about that. Just get into a conversation. How have you been lately? That kind of stuff. Just kind of open up a dialogue. And, a couple minutes in, just say, hey, I know we couldn't earn your business when I was out there initially, but is there anything that we can do that would convince you to let us come out there and get that fixed for you? Get that chimney up and running. Let's get it code compliant. Let's make it work. Let's do the things that need to get done. And that's really really the long and the short of it. We're just following those processes. We're following those things that maybe we might have missed something in the sales process while we were there, but we're going to follow up with it in the future. So absolutely building on the value, using this to go back and maybe do a little bit more discovery on some of those older clients. That's definitely something solid. Don, what was it that you were saying? What was your question or comment?
Question. I had one today that we were talking about earlier, Cody, that was very attentive on listening to what we were saying,
Mm-hmm.
but the body language was more negative. And the question is, even though we're educating and they're nodding their head yes and agreeing with things you're saying and understanding, said, yeah, that's what I thought, they were still negative. How do you bring them out of that negativity, or can you bring them out of that negativity?
Absolutely, you can bring them out of that negativity. So somebody that's negative is going to be negative, but you need to remember that we're in the business of bad news, and you need to be able to tell somebody that their dog just died with a smile, right? You need to be in the position that you can turn bad news to something good. So I'm just going to keep on slamming on Alan Rush for the rest of the night here. So let's just kind of beat him to death. Alan Rush says it's always good news. If it's not good news, it's great news. If it's not great news, it's the best news. It's unworldly, amazing news. You know, so the mortar crown is absolute shit. First row of brick needs to be built. Hey man, I've got some great news for you. I was 2 houses down yesterday, and the whole chimney is just absolute crap. We got to take the whole thing down. They're looking at 40-50 grand to rebuild this whole sucker, reline all of it. It's just terrible. Great news for you though. It's just the top row and the mortar crown. Now, I know it seems like a lot, and I know that you probably don't use the chimney a lot after our conversation and everything else. But what we're going to do is we're going to come in, we're going to get this fixed, we're going to get it right and tight. We're going to make sure that no more damaging moisture is going to be penetrating that chimney. We're going to get you completely up to code. We're going to get, and then you go into it and you talk to them about the fact, okay, we don't want to do the code compliance, but I understand you did call us out here for a water leak. With a water leak issue, we want to make sure we want to take care of A, B, and C. Now, on my work order, I am going to have all of my original estimates on there. But even if, I lost him, it looks like, we will let him, well, there we go. We'll let him join back if he can. He might have had to leave all of a sudden. So, getting into it, being like, okay, we want to get it right and tight on the outside. Right meaning structurally sound, tight meaning watertight. By getting it right and tight, we're going to make sure that the chimney's not going to get any worse than it currently has. Right? So, finding that zone. Now,
Right.
you mentioned the body language. You really have to think about your body language in the moment. So, a lot of it's subconscious. How far away are you standing from the customer? What are your hands doing? How is your stance? One of the first things that you need to do when you go to talk to a customer is find somewhere comfortable. Now, that can be comfortable to sit down, that can be comfortable to stand in the kitchen. Just ask the customer, hey, would you like to get somewhere comfortable? Do you just want to stand here? Let them make the decisions. You need them to make as many decisions as possible leading up to you actually hitting them with a number, right? So with that,
Right.
what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, folks, I've got this inspection report ready for you. Let's go over here and we'll talk about it. You wanna stand in the kitchen? You wanna stand at the bar? You wanna come over here and sit by me next to the we'll sit in front of the fireplace together. There's some things I'd like to point out to you while we're sitting here. You wanna sit on the couch? Let them make that decision. Get them somewhere comfortable. If they're gonna make the decision to go where they're most comfortable, they're gonna make the decision to be comfortable. If they're comfortable and you don't have them standing in a cold hallway or in a hot, porch, something like that, they're going to get somewhere that they can rest and take information in. they're going to take more of that information and they're going to retain more of that information. And then you just need to make sure that you're personable. You need to make sure that you have a positive outlook. If you go into it putting the way you would personally feel if it were your house, it's always going to be negative. Always. You need to take the emotion, you need to take the personal emotion out of the job completely. I'm not saying be a robot, but you need to be able to walk in and not think of it as your house. Because, like me personally, I told my wife that we would never own a house with a fireplace. Screw that. uh, I work on chimneys all goddamn day. You want a fireplace in the house, you're gonna have to sweep it. that's on you. Cabinet maker has the worst cabinets in the neighborhood. That's what they always say, right? Doesn't nearly have enough time to do his own cabinets right, so he just nails up a couple of egg crates on the wall, and that's what he uses, right? So you need to take the way you feel. You need to take what you think is a lot of money out of the equation. You need to stop thinking about it like that. If $100 is a lot of money to you, and you don't place a lot of value on a fireplace, and you're projecting that to the customer, that's what they're going to receive. That's how they're going to process that entire conversation. Now, if we go back to the ABCs of sales, if you're classifying that customer as somebody that has value on their fireplace, and you hit them with $15,000, all that you need to do is just convey to them that this is what it is, this is the reason it's broken, and this is what happens if we don't fix it. Mr. Customer, I can get out here next week and I can get started on this. It's going to take me 4 days. Now, whatever the terms of payment are for everybody out there listening at Master Services, if it's less than $10,000, we don't require anything up front. So let's say it's a $9,000 job. Mr. Customer, we can get out here in the next 4 days. $9,000, you don't owe me anything up front. The only thing I'm going to collect today is from my inspection fee. And then once we're done with everything, we'll settle up with you then. They say it's a lot of money. I understand. The $9,000 is a lot of money. And I've never met anybody. And you have to smile when you say it. You have to say it so many times, like an actor running lines for a movie. You have to say it so many darn times that it starts to get silly. So I've never met anybody that has an extra $9,000 laying around for a chimney. Trust me, I've been doing this for years. And I've looked at thousands of chimneys. And I've never met anybody that has, an extra $9,000 just laying around earmarked chimney. That's not a thing. That's not a thing at all. But what we do offer, and then you got to go into the financing options. And for different companies out there, that's going to be different things. At Master Services, we have a third-party vendor that we use for financing, and we go through them. It offers, there's a few different deals. One of them is 6 months, 0% interest, and the customer never pays any interest if they pay it off in 6 months. No early payoff fees, anything like that. I think that one we pay 3% of whatever the finance total is if the customer chooses that one. So, yeah, it's really getting back into our perception of the customer, our perception of what money is. You need to realize that when we're out there charging X, that's because I have to pay you and everybody else Y, and the government's going to take Z. So you're perceiving what you're charging for a customer as if it was you getting charged that on your house. And for some people, $15,000 is nothing to get their fireplace up and running. I like to tell the story of I was in Oklahoma. It was a 2 or 3 bedroom little house, rickety old place, bricks literally falling off the wall. I could see the insulation. I could see the backside of the sheetrock. And when you got up on the roof, all of the decking was almost completely rotted out. I almost went through the roof a few times. Finally, I found a nice solid piece of decking, made my way over to the chimney. I got everything figured out. I got down off the roof safely, thank God. Went in, had the inspection report completely done, got it all, got the estimate completely written up. Sorry, Alan, recommendations. I got the recommendations completely written up for the customer, and I sat down with her, and it always seems like every time that I try to classify a customer before talking to them, that I am inherently wrong. When you walk in and you see that, let's see here. When you walk in and you see, X house, Y customer, that kind of stuff, when you run into that and you try to classify yourself as, or you try and classify the customer as, you know, as a B grade customer or a C grade customer without any consideration of actually stopping and talking to the customer, we're going to run into issues with misclassification. And in the case of this lovely, lovely lady, once I got to talk to her, her heater hadn't worked in her house in years, and she had an extremely high value on what her chimney and fireplace did for her, and her estimate was somewhere around 12 or 15 grand. Grand scheme of things, not by far the most a chimney could be, but in my mind, I'm looking around the house and it is dilapidated as hell. and you get into a false mindset. You get into not trusting yourself and your ability to classify that customer correctly in the discovery process. And we're not classifying the human, we're classifying the mindset and the value that they put on the chimney. And I did not do that with this lovely lady. And I hit her with the number, and she looked at me and said, "Would you like a check now or a check later?" And I took a check, and I walked out of the house, and I called my boss, and I said, "Hey, John, I have a check for $12,000, and I'm freaking out because I hate money. I hate other people's money. I don't like carrying money around. I've lost enough wallets in my day with $1,000+ in it that I even stopped carrying cash, so I don't like carrying around extremely large checks." Um, and so I got back to Oklahoma, or I got back from Oklahoma. I got back to Dallas that night. Went in, did the deposit, and I almost held on to the check, but I was there first thing the next morning to watch somebody take that check out of the box. It scared the hell out of me, but I sold it. She wanted it. She got the repairs done. That completely blew my mind. And the ABCs of sales were born, and that was 2 years ago. I decided that I had to have a way that I could break loose and determine if a customer was a buyer or not, and at what value. Not at what price, but at what value. I needed a way to go in and say, okay, does this customer have the ability to pay for it? Not financially, but in their mind, mentally. And so we're holding these morning meetings going over all of this information. And we're going to continue that. Another little plug for Alan Rush, his daily tidbits. I'm signing up for those today. I believe that came out as either last week or the week before, and I was told to sign up for them the day they came out. And I'm not a very good employee, so there's that. But we're going to be incorporating the daily tidbits into our meetings. We were doing morning meetings, 7:30 in the morning. And after talking with the guys this morning, I think we're going to go to afternoon meetings. I think we're going to do them from 5 to 5:30. Worked better with a lot of people's schedules. And to be perfectly honest, I think the morning meetings might work a little better for us as technicians, as sweeps, as educators, as we call ourselves at Master Services. Because what I want to be able to do is I want to take the day's jobs while they're still fresh in their mind, and I want to go through that and and fully incorporate the day's work into the meeting. I want to be able to round table the jobs of the day and bring up the weather twos and the Y4s for the day, and not just um, try and pick it up the next morning. So that's really where we're at. If anyone else would like to click in with any kind of questions or anything, I'm more than willing to take those questions. Looks like Don got logged back on. Don, do you have any other questions?
No, I think you've addressed it pretty good. I think we will both benefit as we discuss the day's work and try to hammer out those little tidbit of information we do better. It's great to have a little round table where you can talk and discuss things with your cohorts and say, okay, thanks for the tidbit. That'll help me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, it's with the round tables. We definitely want to be able to play off one another. I want to be able to sit down and talk with everybody. Um, but you know, we're not we the way that we're structured, we're never in the office at the same time all the time. So being able to do it as a round table, and if Tim has a question about one of your jobs, or you have a question about one of your jobs, and Tim might have the answer, something he ran into. Those are the things that we want to be able to get into. We want to be able to help each other. We want to be able to rely on each other's knowledge. Um, running into customers that might have a particular problem. Um, we want to get as deep into those to try and refine our skill set as much as possible. That way, when we get into the actual um, ABCs of selling, when we're actually working on it, and we can focus on all of this information, when we can actually track the customers that it is that we are working with, track the intent of the customer. Was it a positive experience? Was it not a positive experience? Those kinds of things. If we can get deeper into that, I think it's going to help us out overall in the long run. And the goal is to be able to get into our busy season and then take where we're at right now. For Texas, I mean, it's 100 degrees outside some days. Today it was pouring down buckets and it was still almost 90 degrees. So even in the rain that should be nice and cool, it was still swampy and hot outside. And then you get in the truck with the air conditioner and you'd about freeze to death. So that's the things that we have to take into consideration right now. Traditionally, as a company, this is our slowest couple of weeks in the year, just bar none. That's where it's at. So we really want to get on the train to be able to go forward, to work harder, to be able to get into the right mindset. We want to get those skills honed. We want to sharpen our sales knives, if you will, and then that way we can completely take it over. We can just wreck it once that season hits, and that's gonna generally everything starts to pick up, after that Labor Day weekend. Um, as you can tell, I mean, Don, we've already got 2 to 3 weeks worth of work scheduled out in Oklahoma. As that cooler, those couple of degrees cooler start to hit down here, people are really going to start thinking about that chimney work. And you'll be surprised. We'll have people call in from a year ago, 2 years ago. We've got some of those. I think your first one that you and Tim rolled out on today was from 2017, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
2017.
The
So,
unfortunate thing, she hasn't done hardly since then either.
so yeah, that's
You
and
got
those ones are a little harder. Prior to this year, all of our estimates were good for a year. We would say, okay, here's your estimate, good for a year. Call us, let's get it done. Um, Around March of this year, we went to estimates are good for 30 days. And then about a month and a half ago, maybe a month ago, we went to the estimates are good for 15 days. Period. Flat out. 15 days. After that, we have to readdress it. We have to go back in. We have to make sure materials cost didn't go up. That's one thing is everybody wants to talk about materials costs, but if you're not calculating in the rise in labor costs, that's also a definitive. People are having to be paid more because to get people off their couch, companies like McDonald's and some of the bigger gas stations, like here in Texas we have Buc-ee's. Some of those areas, other industries, Bell Helicopter, a lot of those guys are bringing people back on with bonuses and pay increases and guaranteed overtime. When you talk about the bigger industrial guys or commercial guys, and then when you get into McDonald's and whatnot, they're offering more benefits. It was Walmart the other day, guaranteed to pay for college and health care for all of its employees. 1 million employees. It's a multi-billion-dollar venture. Go get a bachelor's degree on us, and we cover your health care while you're in college. I mean, how do I get somebody to come stack bricks and sweep chimneys for, whatever we were paying 2 years ago? You're not going to do it because they can go get 4 years of college and health care at Walmart and make $18 an hour. So people are having to get paid more to do the same job. And when you're talking about the cost of the jobs, the cost of everything else, that's what we're competing with. That's where we're getting into. So that leads back into the shock and awe of the price tag. When we're out there presenting it, Don, we need to make sure that we're remembering all of these things. We need to make sure that we're remembering that people are getting paid more. We need to make sure that, like I myself, I'll wake up 2 days out of the week and I check the price on 2x4s, 8-foot framing studs at Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, and a couple other little local places. I'll check what the average price is on those. That's a good gauge as to where the market on materials is going to be going. Bricks. Don, you were in the truck with me when we had the customer over there in Dallas. Williamson,
yes,
Jackie
yes,
Williamson.
we had yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was a full teardown. Everything else, we had the bricks sourced. We went to go get them, and by the time we got there, they had been sold. And then we had to drive to Malakoff the next day, which is 3.5 hour drive from the shop, and get the bricks. And we had to put a deposit on them before we could even head that way. So instead of getting them from a local yard, a matching brick, something easy that we could grab on the way to the customer's house, now we're having to go 3.5 hours out of our way, one way, 7 hour round trip, not including loading and unloading of this material. So, these are the things that we need to remember when we're building out these estimates. The value of the customer, the value that the customer is going to place on the fireplace and the chimney, and then we need the value of what it's going to cost to do the job. Lyndon, one of the other guys, he sold one today, and he's like, "Hey man, I got this tiny little chimney out here. I wrote up this rebuild, and I wrote it up for like, $3,700. The guy said, "Hey, can we do it for 35?" And I'm thinking, he sent me a picture of it, and I'm sitting here thinking, hell yeah, we'll do that chimney for $3,500. That's a tiny little itty bitty thing. Wasn't but 12 rows high, you know, 2.5 bricks wide by 2 bricks deep. Itty bitty little thing. So, um, yeah, it's. I got to look at the estimate, and he had charged them $1,600, and then the rest of it was all in just other various things. So we had one of those unfortunate conversations about, hey, you know, we need to call this customer, and we need to explain to him that we boo booed. We underbid this job. Um, so, we charge by the brick. We have a price per brick, and he had charged about 2/3 of what the job should have cost, according to our pricing matrix. And so we did a 3-way call. He got the customer on the phone. And keep in mind, the customer was thinking $3,500 for the whole gig. I get on the phone. Lyndon is telling me, oh my gosh, this guy's never going to go for it. He's never going to pay more money. It's another $800 is what we want to charge him. And I get him on the phone and I explain to him, hey, there was a bit of a mathematical error. We were trying to get 1 inch of hose through 2 inch of clothes, as my great grandfather used to say was his favorite wintertime math problem. And I just explained the situation to him. And I said, I know this is going to cost you more. We do have a normal upgrade to a number 2, which is what we call our hip roof lid, from our flat top lid, which we call our number 1. I said, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to get you in at the right price on the chimney rebuild, so it's right on the estimate. But what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you a free upgrade from your flat lid to your hip roof. And he said, well, what's that going to put my price at? And we did the calculations, and I said, well, it's going to bring it in just under $4,300. It's like $4,288 something. And he said, no. Let's get it for $4,000 and I'll do it. And I said, well, sir, what I'm going to have to do, because you live in a historic community, which you've told us you live in, it's got to be built back the same way. There's extra time and labor in the style and design of the chimney. We're going to have to take those very hard to get turn of the century bricks off. We're going to have to clean them. We're going to have to prep them. We have to soak them. We're going to have to make sure that they dry properly. And then we're going to have to get them stacked back on and hopefully not break any of them, because they're very hard to find and they're very expensive when you do. I was like, I guarantee I'm still underbid on this job versus what somebody else like Brick Doctor or one of the other corporate guys would come in and charge you to do this. I fully guarantee I am. But we've made a commitment to you on a price, and I'm trying to give you the absolute best price that I can. And with that, I'm giving you the itty bitty little discount you asked for up front. Plus, I'm going to throw in another, upgrade to the hip roof lid. We normally charge an extra $350 for that. That's the price is the price, and we're gonna have to stick with that, because I understand that you've already approved it. And I don't want to be somebody that as soon as the job gets approved, we have a change order. That's not who we are as a business. But at the same time, I have to make sure that I'm not signing us up to go lose money on a job site. And that's kind of my job. And we talked for another minute or two, and he said, okay. We didn't talk about anything. We just talked about random crap, like his neighbor and stuff. And after a couple of minutes of just chatting him up, just being there, just being a friend, he said, you know what? He said, what was the total? And I hit him again. It was like just under $4,300. It was like $4,290 or $4,280 something, high 80s, low 90s, somewhere in there. And he said, so you're going to give me that free cap upgrade, and it's going to be done right? I said, yes, sir. I said, not only will it be done right, but it's going to be watertight, and we're not going to have this issue of birds getting in the chimney going forward, and we're not going to have an issue of water getting in and destroying anything else going forward. So we're going to solve 2 problems. We're going to solve 3 problems, actually. Your water leak, your chimney falling apart, and the birds in the chimney. He said, let's do it. He said, let's just stay on schedule. Let's keep moving forward. And so the reservation on price is purely how you're conveying it. If you've already classified the customer as somebody that has value in getting the repairs done, they don't have to have a quantified total value in the usage of the fireplace. As long as you're selling to the value that they have in the fireplace, you're selling to value. You've quantified their value on whatever the problem is, and you're selling to that. Now, would I like to sell him a complete relining and a smoke chamber parging and tear out that back wall and rebuild it and then get it set up for either wood burning or throw a really nice set of automatic starting gas logs in there and make this a 10, 12, $15,000 estimate? Abso-freaking-lutely. Is that ever going to happen? Abso-freaking not. It's not going to. It's just not going to happen. But what we did is we sold to where he had value in the fireplace by listening to what his problems were and then solving those problems. And when we made an error on writing up the actual work order, we went back and we resolved it by giving him a little extra something. I mean, everybody out there that's going to watch this or listen to this, you know that the hip roof lid, it doesn't take that much more to process. The cost of it isn't that much more. You're really paying for the overall aesthetic of it. So for me to give that to him wasn't too much for me, but he really felt that he was getting that value, and that's where his value got built in. The fact that we were willing to do that for him, we were willing to throw ourselves under the bus and say that we had messed up, and the fact that we were willing to not only make it right at a fair price, but give him a little something extra to show him that we do appreciate him as a customer and that we do want to do this work for him, and we want to make it right, and we want to make it look good, and we want it to make it last a long time. He found value in that conversation. He found value in my ability to sit and listen to him complain about his neighbor, and he found value in the fact that as soon as I caught the problem, I called him, and we didn't leave it up to a technician to discuss with him when they got out on site and said, hey, by the way, this is wrong. I'm going to have to charge you more. And then the truck's already there. He had the ability to be at home, be comfortable, sitting on his couch, watching his TV, and take a phone call and be in the right mindset to make that call. So that's one of the big things about making the sale. That's one of the big things about making yourself make the sale. You're not the only one that has to be in the right mindset. The customer has to be in the right mindset as well. And whether you believe it or not, you're the one responsible for putting the customer in the right mindset. If you're somebody that just wants to roll up to the house and be there, beginning of the time window, end of the time window, middle of the time window, you never called them. You just show up, bam, bam, here to look at the chimney, throw the camera out, pull it down, write up your little report, hit them with a number, and walk out. You don't value that customer the way that they want to be valued. If you're not valuing them, they're never going to value you because it is reciprocal. If you get in the truck and you call the customer, hey, this is Cody with Master Services. I just wanted to let you know I've got a work order for inspection on your fireplace and chimney, it looks like. I just wanted to call and let you know I'm headed your way. I should be there in the next 30 to 35 minutes, depending on traffic. Of course, you know it's Dallas. But anyways, I'm headed your way. I'll be there, and if anything changes between now and then, please feel free to call me back. This is my phone number, and if you have any other questions before I get there, you can call, you can text, you can whatever, and I'll pull over to the side of the road, and we'll get that handled for you before I get there. You've already told them that you're willing to go the extra mile to make sure everything is perfect when you show up. And then when you do show up, you need to be perfect. You need to walk up to the door. You need to knock on the door. Take a step back. You want 6 feet between you and the door. That doesn't come from me. That doesn't come from Master Services. That comes from my over a decade doing direct TV. When we would knock on a customer's door, they wanted us to step back and give 6 feet of clearance between the front door and ourselves. And the reason is because they wanted all of this. They wanted the uniform, they wanted the name, the badge hanging, they wanted the face to be seen. The face matched the badge, the face matched the picture that got emailed to them. I'm taking a step back. I'm not being affrontive. By taking a step back, I'm showing all this extra space around me. And by showing that extra space around me, I'm letting them know that I'm not a threat. Once they greet you at the door, smile. Hey, I'm Cody. It's chimney time. I'm here to get it done. Let's go for it. Let's hit it. You know? And it's a stoner. That was for you. Chimney time. Let's get it. It's been a couple weeks. I miss you, buddy. But you know, let's go in and take a look at it. You get through the front door. Oh man, it's a really nice home. I don't care if they live in a shit box. That's a nice home. I really like what you've done with the walls. The cockroaches and the cigarette stains are just amazing. You know, you need to find something to comment on. I was in one customer's house. Beautiful wedding photo. Beautiful wedding photo. It was kind of an industrial area. You know, bride and groom standing there, and they had signed. They had people sign something all the way around, kind of like in a yearbook style. And at the bottom, she had 3 friends that wrote, "Wedding, meh. Couple, love you guys." And she was taking a Zoom call. She was working from home, and I was standing there, tablet in hand, ready to go over her inspection report. And she came out, and I said, "Apparently, your wedding was a big meh." I was like, "You know, you got 4.5 out of 5 stars according to all these reviews." And you know, I found something to connect with her. She got to tell me a story. She got to tell me something about herself. She got to involve me a little bit in her life. And then I reciprocated by saying, "Oh, I fully get it. You know, my wife and I, we got married," and I told our wedding story. And she got to know something about me. I always let every customer know that I'm the biggest chimney nerd they're ever going to meet in their life. And I don't care who's watching this or who's listening to this. I don't care if it's now. I don't care if it's in 20 years. You're not a bigger chimney nerd than me. I guarantee it. I had stickers made. My phone sings "Chim Chimney Tree" when it rings. I am the biggest chimney nerd. I'm not saying I know everything about chimneys. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying I geek out over chimneys. I will sit and watch all like 187 million hours of the Fred Dibna on the BBC, watching him actually, you know, ladder a huge industrial chimney. I will sit and read books. I'll dig through history books. I'll find things about it. I'll read about how chimneys were maintained back in, you know, ancient Egypt type of stuff. I just go crazy on it. I really nerd out when it comes to chimneys. I really do. And a lot of that fuels my passion for my love of teaching other people. I truly, I would never, I'm going to say this right now, I would never be a public school teacher. I would never actually be a teacher. Those guys have probably one of the hardest, least respected jobs ever. Especially here in the United States. I can't imagine going to school for as many years as they go to school, taking on the amount of student loans that they take on, and then working for the amount that they make, and what little respect they get not only from their students, but from the parents and from the federal, state, and local governments. That is a rough job. In the same, I love teaching people. I love my ability to take somebody that was like me when I first started, that knows that the fire goes in the firebox. That's it. And getting them to a level of confidence where they can walk in like young Lyndon this morning. He's in his 20s, and I rolled out on his first job this morning, and the customer didn't know I was there. She was upstairs. I was downstairs. He and I had been talking. I think he mentioned to her that I was downstairs, and all I did was listen. Um, there was a big open, it was a loft style apartment. She was at her desk, and he was sitting there talking with her. And his sales pitch, although slightly nervous, was darn near perfect. He didn't have quite the amount of confidence in himself that I wanted him to have, but he had enough to convey the importance of the repairs. And she walked him back downstairs and explained to him that they were about to renovate around the fireplace, and they were going to pull out a bunch of brick, and they were going to pull off the wood paneling, they were going to sheetrock, and they were going to tile. And without me having to say a thing to this customer, she turned and she looked at me and she said, I think that's probably the best time to do all of this, don't you? And I said, absolutely. Now, I had helped him write the estimate, so I knew kind of what it was, but I didn't know exactly everything that she had in mind that we were doing, because I had only heard, him talk. I'd never got to hear her response. She was a very soft-spoken lady. And it was for a full rip and replace on a 2-story prefab. And the whole wall, I mean, it was a 20-foot ceiling inside that went all the way up to meet the bottom side of the roof line. And she was just excited as hell. She was just so excited that we were going to come in there and we were going to fix that, and it was going to be good to use. And she couldn't wait to make it happen. She's like, well, the tile guys are going to be here on this day. The sheetrock guys are going to be here on this day. Do you think we can get done by that date? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah, let's rock on. I do need you to open the email and hit the green button and sign your name. And then Lyndon here is going to take the fee for the camera inspection today. But everything else will be gravy, and we'll get you going. So she was beside herself happy. He identified with her the importance of getting it fixed. She understood that although she was not going to be living on the property, she had a family member that was going to be living on the property. And when they moved out into their own property, she was going to use it as a rental property. And she was going to have renters in there. She wanted it to be something that they could use and they could enjoy when they moved in. She did not see the value in having a fireplace in a rental property and then having to tell the renters, oh, but it doesn't work. So that was an amazing turn of events. And, we run into these things every day. So as an owner of a company, which I know most of you are owners, some of you are managers, very few of you are going to be the employees that are watching this. You need to make sure that if you're putting people in the field, you need to make sure that if you're putting people in front of a customer, don't be the bottleneck. Don't be the guy that has to be called on every job. You need to find the right people with the right knowledge, with the right confidence, that you can then mold into the right technicians, and that you can put out there on the street in front of customers, and they can convey that knowledge and that confidence to the customer in such a way that they could never, ever believe in going with anybody else other than you. Those are the guys that we need. Those are the guys that I hire. I sit down, I have an honest to goodness conversation with people. I find out about their background. What did they do then? What do they do now? Have you gone to college? Have you done this? Don is a former firefighter. Tim, actually, that was on earlier, he got hired about 2 months before me. And then when COVID hit, he took a year sabbatical to go do some insurance stuff. And I hit him up a few months ago and I said, hey, I'm getting promoted to sales manager and I need a lead guy in the field. I need somebody that can take my position and start doing some real training with these guys. I need somebody that can take somebody by the hand. I need and get them to that next level. And that's who Tim is for me. He is the up and comer right now. He's the most experienced that I have. If somebody else shines through and outshines Tim, and positions swap, as they say on the racetrack, then positions will swap. But everybody that I have working for me right now, I have complete confidence in them being able to walk in and convey not only their knowledge but their confidence to the customer. They get to a certain point at which they don't have to call me and have me check over their work orders. I still like to check over work orders of everybody that's been in the field up to their first 30 days. First 4 weeks out, I want to see the work orders that they're putting in front of customers. I want to make sure that they're done correct. And then I want them to take notes, and I want them to read back on their notes when they go to write the next one. I always tell them, the first time I ever did a rip and replace, I sat there on the phone with John, and he was telling me, okay, we need an EL36. We need 16 feet. That's 4 sections of the SL348. We need an SL336, SL324, SL318, 2 of the SL312, 1 SL330. I mean, just rattling off all the parts. Luckily, I had a pen and paper handy, and I just started writing stuff down like a crazy person. And once I started typing it in, I took the extra moment to actually sit there and read the product descriptions of what it was I was typing in. And by doing that, I'm being a problem solver. I am seeing how to write this up. I'm relating back to those notes. Having people that want to take good notes, having people that want to do the right job the first time, every time, and having that issue in the back of their mind where they don't want to be the person that calls every 5 minutes. Now, somebody that's new, if they've been doing it for less than a month on their own, I expect them to be the people that calls every 5 minutes. And sometimes it goes into 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, that's kind of my make or break moment. I need to throw the baby out, throw the baby in the pool, see if they swim. That kind of thing. But I fully expect people to call me. I like having the kind of people that it frustrates them every time they have to call me. When they say, Cody, we just went over this, and for the life of me, I can't find my notes, or for the life of me, I can't remember what job that was, so I can't go back and look at it, and I'm so sorry I have to call you about this. And I tell them, hey, that's why I'm here. That's what I get paid to do. I get paid to help you. I get paid to assist you. I even though I'm the manager, I really am more of their assistant. And remembering that you're going to lead with humility. You're there to reassure them. If you're going to take your sales guys and you're going to break them down every 5 seconds for every little mistake that they make, you're not doing them or yourselves or the customers any favor. You're truly not. If all you want to do is break down your employees and berate them about everything that they're doing wrong, you're going to cause them to lose their own confidence in their own abilities. By doing that, the confidence will not get conveyed to the customer, which means that the sale won't get made, which means now you're pissed at them for them not making a sale, and eventually you're going to end up trying to replace them, or you're going to get mad on them again, and then the whole thing just cycles and it spirals out of control. You need to be able to lean into the situation, and you need to be able to remember perspective. You need to remember the first time you went out and you tried to do something. I love the story that Caesar told when he was on Surefire Academy about the first time he ever dropped in a steel liner. And he was talking about, man, we did this right, everything else. And then a few months later, he saw a post on Facebook, And they were talking about, my God, can you believe this guy? And then John like freaked out, and it took him a minute, and he finally called the guy that made the post. He's like, "What did I do wrong?" And now they're great friends. You know, it's leading through humility, leading through the ability to go in, remember the perspective of what it was like for you, and then move forward with that. What John took from that is, even though he had the right amount of what he perceived to be the knowledge, he realized that he didn't have the correct knowledge to make that, you know, a true liner dropped in code compliant. And one of the best parts about that story is the fact that he closed down his entire company, shut the company down, and took everybody, and they all went and got certified. The way that he solved his knowledge problem was he shut down his entire company and said, "Guys, we're in it together. Let's do this." And he took all of them and got them all certified so they would all be on the same playing level. And that's the way that we need to be. Master Services, we're using the Surefire Training Academy online, and we're getting guys in. We're getting them through the Surefire Academy. Our plan is that by the end of 2022, we want everybody in the company to be certified. That's the plan. We're working on CSIA certifications. We're working on NFI certifications. I myself right now, Kyle, shout out to you, sir. I have ordered my core, gas, wood, and pellet materials. And as soon as those come in, I'm going to start working on studying for that. So, like, I made a post the other day on Chimney World that I actually said I was going to see if I could bribe Jim Brewer into coming into town and tutoring me for a case of beer. So we'll see if that actually gets played out or not. But for everybody that's listening and watching, whether it's now or whether it's later, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time. We're at about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, somewhere in there. Just remember that we're all in this together. Remember that you and your guys, you're in it together. Remember that we're in it with the customers as well. We need to make sure that we're taking care of them like we would take care of our own family. Taking care of the employees like we take care of our own family. No one person is better than anybody else. My grandfather always said that if you don't learn at least one new thing every day, you're not paying close enough attention. And that's the way that I like to live my life. I look forward to the next thing that I'm going to be learning. And with that, I hope that some of the information that we touched on tonight could illuminate some of you. So I just want to say thank you so much for everybody listening. And as far as I know, Chad will be back next week to do Chat with Chad. And everything will get back on track. It'll be back to being his loosey-goosey, as the questions come in, beer in one hand, cigar in the other. We'll get to it. I know for a lot of guys this was a little more structured than what Chat with Chad normally is. But if anybody ever has a question, you can hit me up on Facebook. I've got a TikTok account that everybody likes to tease me about. Jerry Eisenhower has a TikTok account now. He set that up 3 days ago, so everybody needs to go tease him. And I'm on YouTube. This is going out on YouTube. It's chimneyeducator@gmail.com. I'm the Chimney Educator on YouTube, and I am Sweep Life on TikTok. If anybody ever has any questions, you can get me through any of those services, including Facebook. It's just me, Cody Whitwood, on Facebook, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants a more descript version of my ABCs of sales, I'm going to be doing a video of that. I'm also going to be doing a how to identify the value in your customer along with the ABCs of sales as a course on Surefire. And then I'm going to have the lovely Mr. Alan Rush double check that and tell me what I did wrong, and then I can fix it 5 or 6 times. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy yourselves and have a great evening.